Chaitanya Prabhu Por amore Toma vina che dayanu Jagata samsare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kora More Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kora More Tama Vina Kedayano Jagata Sansare Patita Pavana Tava Avatara Motama Patita Prabhu Napaidya Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Shoki Vipavalokana Kara Ame Bodhadoki Daya Koro Sita Pati Advaita Gata Navakripa Bole Pa Chaitanya Nita Aswarupana Kanada Rupa Raghunatha Vata Yoga Shri Deva Prabhu Lokanatha Daya Kara Shri Akshaya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sangha Mahade Narottam Dasa
Bol Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol, Bol Bol. Mandira Nande Vai Bol Hari Bol, Janame Janame Sukhe Bol Hari Bol. Bol Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol. Manava Janmane Pai Bhai Bol Hari Bol. Sukhe Tako Dukhe Tako Bol Hari Bol. Bol Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol, Bol Hari Bol. Sampade Vipade Bhai Bol Hari Bol. Grihe Tako Vane Tako Bol Hari Bol. Krishna rasam sarita ki bol hari bol. Bol hari bol, bol hari bol. Bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol. Asat sanga chari bai bol hari bol. Vaishnava charane pode bol hari bol. Bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol. Gaura Nityananda bol hari bol. Gaura Gadadhar bol bol hari bol. Gaura Advaita bol bol hari bol. Bol hari bol, bol hari bol, bol hari bol. Nitai he Gaura he, Nitai ge Gaura he, Nitai he. Nitai Gaura hari bol, hari bol, hari bol. Nitai Gaura hari bol.
Mama nivedana sono Visai Dutana Sada Kamarata Kitsunai Moraguna. Visai Dutana Sada Kamarata Kitsunai Moraguna. Gopinan Amaravasatomim Tomarat sarane Loino sarana Tomarat kinkora amigo pina Amarabasado Marat sarane Kinkora Gopina Kimane Sodi Bemore Nachani Bhakti Kame Charamate Morechi Samsara Kore Gopina Bhakti Vicharamate Morechi Samsaro Egopena Sakari Tomaramaya Naimama Palam Gyana Sunimala Satinana Kekaya Tomaramaya Gopina 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 Niyatacharannesana Mage Pamaram Kaniya Kaniya Kore Karunada Martina Nistana Mage Pamaram Kaniya Kaniya Kore Karunada Akopina Saka Tume tu sakali pao Luchane tarite Tomar sakate Ke ache papira Luchane tarite Tomar sakate Gopina Tomiki Paparabara Jivera Karame Asiya Papanse Lira Koide Subestar Nira Koire Subesa Gopina Anike Doshi Doshi Asura Shakala Pailo Charana Vinoda Takira Vosi Doshi Doshi Asura Shakala Charana Vinoda Takira Gopina Mama Nivedana Sono Visai Dochana Sadaka Marata Kitsuna Imagagona Gopina
Radhika Charana Padma Shakala Sri Rashadma Radhika Charana Padma Shakala Sri Rashadma Yatane Jenahi Aradilo Yatane Jenahi Radha Patangita Dam Vrindavana Jarana Jahadena Ashaya Korido Yatena Janahi Arandido Radhika Bhava Gambhir Chita Jeva Mahatira Radhika Bhava Kana Sangha Na Koilo Jivana Koilo Jivane Ke Manase Shyamananda Rasa Sindhu Snanananda Shyamananda Rasa Sindhu Snanananda Labib Buddha Ekamane Labib Buddha la vive bujaye kamane la vive mane radhika yujala rasara charya radhika Radhika Ujjala Rasara Charya Radhika Ujjala Radha Madhava Shuddha Prema Vijaya Madhava Shuddha Jeda Rila Radha Pada Paramaya Kane Rila Radha Pada Se paino Krishna Pada Amoya Radhane Radha Pada Vina Kabu Krishna Nai Mile Radha Vina Kabu Radha Radha Sira Krishna Sava Vede Bole Radha Sira Krishna Jodata Dana Jana Kalatra Sutamida Jodata Dana Jana Kalatra Sutamida Jodata Karamageyana Jodata Karamageyana Radha Pada Pangaja Madhurata Sevana Radha Pangaja Radha Pada Pangaja Madhurata Sevana Bhakti Vinoda Paramana Vinoda Bhakti Vinoda Paramana Radhika Charana Padma Sakala Sira Sadma Radhika Charana Padma Sakala Sira Sadma Mayatene Janai Aradilo Oh Yatane Janai Aradilo Oh Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Sri Radhe Radhe.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, 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 Hari Go Premanande. Jai Shri Untitled Chapter. Bhagavan Karita Giridham Giridham Siraganoti Hari Radha Ramandi Hari Radha Samsarijo Karira Bharastum Smanistota Sakashish Bhakti Viran Sivanayana Sama Sri Gurudev Ki Jai Sri Gurudev Pasada Binda Ki Jai Sri Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharya Vag Ki Jai Sri Rupanunga Guruvag Ki Jai Sri Sarvasanga Prem Sugo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu-Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Navadvip Maya Pradham Ki Jai Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Govardhan Dvadasavanatmaka Sri Patsamandra Ki Jai Syama Kunda Radha Kunda Managanga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Kantarat Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Prihat Midanga Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Sri Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
Aganitimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmritam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Vandeham Shri Guru Varam Shri Rupanuga Pravaram Rajarasarasikam Cha Narayanantam Prapanam Shri Guru Charanam Vande Ramana Prishtaya Bhutale Rupanuga Bhakti Tamcha Kripamuti Narayanam Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Divim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jamutirayed Ajanilampita Budro Kanakapatato Sankirtana Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishvambaro Dvijavaro Yugatamapalo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Avataro Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Shama Sunda Shikanda Sheka Smeraha Samurali Manohara Radhika Rasikamam Kripa Nide Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripa Sindupa Evacham Patitanam Pavanebo Vaishnavebo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before reading from Madhurya Kadambini, I offer my most humble obeisances in the lotus feet of my worshipful divine master, Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Bharaj Gachai Ashtotra Sata Yugachai Bhaktavandav Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and the lotus feet of his dear God brothers and friends, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vam Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivedanta Tirikam Goswami Maharaj. I offer my most humble obeisances in the lotus feet of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and my spiritual grandfather, the line-like Acharya, Srila Bhakti Brigan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, as well as all Rupanuga Vaishnavas and devotees of the Lord. Keshav Mahashai. So we've been reading from the cloud bank of nectar, diving into the first shower of nectar, and about Bhakti's superior position, independently. She gives herself into the hearts and hands of her devotees, of the devotees of Krishna, who bestow her by their own sweet will. And that Bhakti is independent from karma, gyan, and so on, cannot be attained by any of these processes. Contrary, these processes depend on Bhakti, and they can only yield results if Bhakti Devi is there. And Bhakti is so powerful, even if somebody is not completely purified, even if somebody is depraved personality, he may still perform pure Bhakti, transcendental devotion, and be considered a devotee, considered a bhakta. Krishna taking personal care for him and just taking the mood of that devotee, even if there's some mistake, anything he still accepts, and he protects that devotee and instructs all of us that we also should see that person as a devotee. So Shastra, Krishna do not even criticize such a devotee, even if he's depraved, if he is one-pointed. We also heard about that this should not be seen as a license that we can do whatever we like, thinking that by the strength of bhajan, then we can engage in all types of ill behavior. But actually there should be remorse, there should be constant Nam Sankirtan, it should be a vow to give up these bad habits and the feeling of intense misery. So, verse 5i. Ajamil is accepted as a bhakta, even though he chanted a mere semblance of the holy name. Ajamilyasya bhaktatvam Vishnu tutai nirupitam sanketa bhagavan nama putra sneha nusangajam ityadi trishtya dhat abhasavatam apyajamila dinam bhaktatvam sarvai sankitam eva. Bhavanuvad. The messengers of Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, are fully versed in tattva. In comparison with the Yamadutas, they do not err in ascertaining what is real and unreal. Therefore, what they determine is the truth. They thus established Ajamil standing as a bhakta. Although he remained a man of depraved character, out of fondness for his son, he uttered the name Narayan, albeit in reference to his own son. Thus, such utterances, although a mere semblance, abhas, of Bhagavan's name, reveal the glorious position of Ajamil and others like him as bhaktas and as those who are to be extolled by all. Well, very amazing statement. Vishnu Dutas, they're on the transcendental platform. They are free from Karnapatava, Brahm Vipralipsa, and Pramad. Their senses are free from the imperfection of senses, of their tendency to make mistakes, from illusion and the tendency to cheat. Whereas the Yamadutas are entities of this world. Somebody has the inclination to give torture, so somebody has to do that job also. So living entities who take pleasure in giving pain to others, they can become a Yamaduta. Who?
The hunter who killed and look at least suffering.
Yeah, maybe. Rigari, huh? The dentists become Yamadutas. Yeah, maybe. I wanted to become a dentist when I was a kid. But that's because only I never had to suffer at the dentist. I never had a cavity until I was like 19 or 20. So my visits at the dentist were always very nice. No problems. But the amazing thing here is that Ajamir, who, as we know, he was a Brahmin, versed in all scriptures and established in his position as Brahmin, but he fell down and he came together with a prostitute, had many children, and until the end of his life, that bad association that had formed his character, made him depraved, stayed with him throughout his life. And only by Narad Muni's, Krishna's divine arrangement, he named his son Narayan and called him very fondly, addressing his son, not Narayan, and still he is considered a bhakta who is to be glorified by everyone. So quite amazing. Piyusha Varshini Britti. Even when a mere semblance of bhakti exists in an extremely fallen individual, Durachari, his standing as a devotee is not impeded, not to speak of one who is practicing bhakti with serious intensity. An example of this is Ajamir, whose standing as a devotee was confirmed by the Vishnudutas, even though he was dissolute. Being overcome by affection for his son, Ajamir uttered Bhagavan's name in reference to his son, since his son's name was Narayan. Ajamir was a depraved individual, but his standing as a bhakta, merely by his uttering a semblance of Bhagavan's name, is celebrated through this evidence from the revealed scriptures. So how powerful is the name of Krishna? Then when he died, Yamadutas came, 3 of them, and they took him out of his body by a noose, wanted to take him out and drag him to Yamaloka so that he will meet his sentence. But then at the same time, 4 Vishnudutas appeared because he chanted the 4 syllables of the holy name of Narayana. So, and they had an argument. Whole chapter of the Bhagavatam is dedicated to that in the 6th canto, right? 6th. And the Vishnudutas, they absolve Ajamil of all his sin, or they described how Ajamil has been absolved of all his sins by chanting the name of Bhagavan, even unintentionally. But not only that, he's considered a bhakta. Not that just he has received liberation from his sins, but he has being awarded the position of bhakta. Quite amazing. 5J. I don't know, that's how I've heard it. Narayana, because of 4 syllables, 4 Vishnu Tudas appeared. I guess then only 2 come. I guess because, well, I don't know, but all the paraphernalia of Bhagavan, they're all personified, right? So, like, his weapons, so why not his name also? Each syllable of his name. The Vedas are personified too. So why not, like, each syllable of his name also personification? They're also serving Vishnu, or Narayan. Maybe, I don't know. Tat evam karma yogadinam antakarana shuddhi travya desha shrutyavdhaya sadakastat vaigunyadayo bhadaka bhaktistu pranadaine viti sarvata paratantram evatesham nahi svatantra kenapi satyante patyante viti. Bhavanuvad. It is accepted, therefore, that in regard to karma, yoga, and other paths, the mental purity of the practitioner and the purity of the ingredients, place, and so forth are vital to the success of the practice. And any fault, wantonness, etc., in these factors hinders that success. And even if perfectly performed, these disciplines can never bestow any fruit without bhakti. For bhakti alone breathes life into them. Therefore, it can be perceived in every way that disciplines like karma, yoga, and jnana depend on bhakti. There are factors that make these processes successful, and there are factors that hinder them. These processes are not in themselves independent. Piyusha Vashini Briti. In this manner, the Siddhanta is firmly established that some factors render practices such as karma, jnana, and yoga effective, and some factors render them defective. Purity of consciousness and so forth make them effective, and the distortion brought about by desire for enjoyment and the like makes them defective. That practice in which effective and defective factors govern its success can never be referred to as dependent on itself only. On the other hand, the practice of bhakti, which is autonomous and very powerful, does not require purity of consciousness and so forth. This is because hearing and chanting can go on even when the heart remains impure. Even when lust and so forth remain, the practice of bhakti is not impeded, since alongside the presence of lust, the activities of bhajan, such as hearing and chanting, are performed. Therefore, the sadhana of bhakti is supremely autonomous. There is not even the slightest doubt about this. That which is supremely autonomous is neither made effective nor defective by anything at any time. A very nice explanation of Srila Gurudev on how karma, yoga, jnana are dependent and bhakti is independent. Did you understand, Prankupal? It's said here that those material paths, like karma, jnana, yoga, there can be success or failure, depending on different factors. They can be successful, or they can be failure also. Yeah, like anything you do in this world, any process you perform, there can be success or failure. You can go to school and you can be successful and pass your exams, or you can have failure, not pass your exams. You can apply for a job, you can be successful, you get the job, you can be unsuccessful, you reject it. You work in the job, you success. There's always in this world, anything you do, there can be success or failure. So success in the material realm depends on purity. Like Srila Prabhupada said, purity is the force. By purity of mind, purity of heart, purity of action, then success is there. If there's impurity, how? By distortion, by other desires. By desires, like our mind becomes distorted by lust. Yeah, material things. Karma, jnana, yoga, anything. For the process to be successful, to give good results. Good results means results that will elevate you beyond your current position, beyond your current state of consciousness. But if you're and to give the results of karma, the result of karma is elevation, for example, to heavenly planets, heavenly pleasures. The result of jnana is mukti. The result of yoga is different mystical perfections, siddhis. But all these things, they can only be if you want to achieve these things, you have to follow a certain process. But that process is only successful if you are of pure heart and pure mind, and therefore your actions are pure. If your mind and your heart are not pure, then your actions will not be pure. So then, how can it become impure? By the distortion through desire, by the distortion through lust. If there is selfish desire, if there's any selfish desire, then automatically our mind and heart becomes impure, our action becomes impure, not focused. We act then with ulterior motives, or we act as hypocrites or pretenders. So, but it is said here, therefore, that all these processes of karma, jnana, and yoga, they cannot be considered independent. They cannot be. They're always dependent on different factors to give either success or failure. But in the process of bhakti, there is no failure. In the process of bhakti, there's only success. Huh? Like who was it? Was it Srila Gurudev or Srila Prabhupada? I think it was Srila Gurudev when he who was it? Srila Gurudev when he left his job, and then he was asked what he's gonna do, and he said, "I'm gonna go into the business where there's no, into the best business where there's no failure, where there's only success." That's the path of bhakti. The path of bhakti is completely independent. It cannot be altered into either failure or success by purity of mind or purity of heart. It cannot be altered in becoming a failure or a failure by distortion of the mind, by distortion of lust. But bhakti always is successful. That's quite amazing. It is completely autonomous. So if you perform bhakti, if you act under the guidance of Guru, you offer some service, that is successful, will be successful. You will get spiritual benefit, and that benefit is staying with you forever. Guru never forgets, Krishna never forgets even the smallest service done to him. So even if we perform some devotion now, and for example, when I think of myself, I've done once something good, I've had a little bit of surrender, a little bit of devotion, many years ago, and I did a little bit of service that was somehow pleasing to Gurudev and Vaishnavas, and still I'm still around because of that. Not I'm a complete success. Well, no. I'm a complete failure, but somehow, well, somehow, whatever I've done at some point, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 month ago, even today, whatever I have done, little bit good that I have done, little bit pleasure that I have been able to give to Gurudev and Vaishnavas and Thakurji, somehow that is accepted. Although my motives are not pure, my character is not pure, my behavior is not pure. So, very merciful. The devotional process, only success. Wonderful, best business.
But look, the politics people, should make politics. I don't know, they have pure mind and pure heart. I don't think so. But it is they are successful,
Well, they're just for a moment, they're all meeting failure. I mean, they're not getting pure results. They're getting mixed results. They're getting some good results, and they're getting some bad results. They don't get, desired. They don't get pure results. Like also now, you look at the politicians. We think of Hiranyakashipu. He was also successful. He did austerity for 60,000 years, and then he was successful. He became Lord of the universe. All the demigods all the gods had to wash his feet and worship him and sing Arti for Hiranyakashipu. They had, they had to become his servants. He even reversed the law of karma. Those who perform good activities, those performed sinful activities, they got good results. And those who performed sacrifice, they got bad results. So powerful, so he's successful. But for how long? He worked for 60,000 years, and then he enjoyed his fruits about 5 years. And then even in those 5 years where he was Lord of the universe, he did not have happiness. Why? Because his dearest and nearest son was he saw as his enemy. Like he had all this wealth, all this great fortune, and he wanted naturally, he wanted to give all of this to his son, but his son became he was perceived as his greatest enemy. So no happiness also. Externally, yes, power maybe, wealth, but no happiness. So even now, politicians, maybe they're successful, but for how long? Short time. And they're not happy also, because they're getting mixed results. Because they don't have purity of mind, purity of heart, so there's so many mistakes in their actions. Therefore, they cannot have ultimate success in whatever they're doing. It's not possible. Only a devotee can have complete success. Yeah, be devotee, exactly. $5K. The superiority of bhakti over moksha. 5J then goes to 5K. We already have 5G. The superiority of bhakti over moksha. Kingcha gyanaika sadhana matratvam bhakti ityagai evojyate yato gyana sadhyan mokshat apitasya paramotkarsha ave eva lochyate muktim tatati karhichit smana bhakti yogam iti muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayana sudulabo prashantatma kotish api mahamune ityadhipya. Bhavanuvad. Only an ignorant person claims that Gyan activates bhakti. Shastra indeed determines the supreme eminence of bhakti, even over moksha, which is the ultimate goal of Gyan. Srimad Bhagavatam states, Shri Hari may give salokya mukti and so forth to those who perform bhajan of him, but he does not easily bestow prema bhakti yoga. Moreover, it has been said, O great sage, even among hundreds of millions of perfected and liberated personalities, it is extremely rare to find even one bhakta who is dedicated to serving Sri Narayan, his mind thus totally serene. In Shastra, one encounters numerous statements like these, which conclusively establish bhakti's supremacy over Gyan, or bhakti's absolute supremacy over mukti, the ultimate fruit of Gyan. So here two verses of Srimad Bhagavatam are quoted that tell us that bhakti easily gives the results that can be attained by jnana. Therefore, it is independent. The fruit that jnana gives is easily attained by bhakti. So what is not only mukti is the fruit, but also, like you said here, mind totally serene, totally transcendental. Bhakta who is dedicated to serving Sri Narayan automatically achieves that result, as we've heard previously. He becomes fully purified. So, Piyusha Varshini Priti. Previously, the preeminent author, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, has explained that the practices of karma, jnana, yoga, and so on have the nature of being dependent on something else, since certain elements render them effective and certain elements render them defective. But that the practice of bhakti is supremely independent due to the absence of anything that can render it effective or defective. Means also bhakti not only that something can destroy, like alter the result of bhakti, like in a detrimental way, that bhakti will always be met with success, but also the success of bhakti cannot be enhanced by any other practice. Like if we, the bhakti of a very rich man is not better than the bhakti of a poor man, or he will not yield more results because he is giving, not just simple rice and dal, but he's giving a big feast every day. Thereby, the result of his bhakti will not increase. It will not be made more effective. In the same way, somebody who's very learned or very renounced, that also will not make his bhakti more effective. It will not give better fruits. The result of bhakti is bhakti and depends on bhakti alone. So therefore, we should not, obviously, some karma and jnana has to be performed. Naturally, just because we're here and we have to engage ourselves in service, and we have to maintain ourselves, and therefore some karma and jnana is necessary, but otherwise we should just focus on bhakti, on the instructions of Sri Guru and serving those instructions. Nothing else, like sometimes as devotees we may think, I need a more favorable situation, then I can perform bhakti nicely. If I have a good wife who will support me nicely, then I can perform nice bhakti. Then very good. Now it's very difficult, difficult to get along with all the other brahmacharis. They don't understand me. But then I have a nice partner who knows my heart, that can support me emotionally, and then I can, then I'm very peaceful and happy, and then I can perform nice bhakti. We can preach together, be in Vrindavan together, and then I can perform very nice bhakti. Or we think, now I'm very poor, I don't have a nice place to stay. If I have a nice place to stay, nice altar, nice arrangements, then I can perform very nice service. Then my bhakti, my devotion is much better. Huh? Being very pure. What is it? What's the mantra, Snan? No, what is the mantra, Snan? Apavitra pavitra vasa vastam katopaya yasmarit pandharikaksham yapa yapa antara shuchi. Impure or impure is not consideration in the performance of bhakti. Still, of course, we try to cultivate mode of goodness. So cleanliness is favorable. It does not necessarily enhance bhakti, as I understand it. Cannot make it, like it said here, cannot make it more effective or defective. But it helps us so that we can perform bhakti, right? If we have a nice clean place, then we are, well, okay, I guess in that sense, then I guess, yeah, if cleanliness helps, then maybe a wife will also help. Yeah, she can clean. Nice. Huh? No, it's not bad. I mean, Krishna likes clean. Krishna likes clean, so we clean for Krishna's pleasure. And also, of course, I don't know how to answer this question, but like according to scripture, ultimately from the transcendental platform, like purity or impurity from material platform is not a consideration. Because bhakti itself is completely pure. Bhagavan is completely pure. So, like even this, what is this? This farmer who's chanting Ram, Ram, Ram on the toilet, impure place. Still, when Hanuman comes to kick him, then Ram is feeling the pain because Ram directly is present there when he offers, when he worships by Nam Bhajan.
But the point is, if we are unclean and the Karma see this, think, oh, they're servants of God and they're so unclean. What's this? This is normally.
Well, the thing is also right now we perform Vaidhi Sadhana. Right, so Vaidhi Sadhana means there's rules and regulations because we still yet have to learn how to practice bhakti. That's not bhakti in the mode of goodness, but the transcendental devotion. So anyhow, then certainly some things are favorable, other things are unfavorable. That's the process of Sharanagati. Ultimately, it's the instruction of Guru. Still, we should not think that, by giving, very rich offerings or having a very nice, like endeavoring to create a nice environment, a nice material situation, so that that will not enhance making bhakti more effective. We should not over endeavor that. Also, like I know, some are thinking, if I could sing nicely, if I could play the drum nicely, if I could play harmonium nicely, or if I would know so many shlokas, then I could preach nicely, or then I could, then I can really do some sadhana. So then, then if we come into the habit of separately studying Sanskrit, or over endeavoring in creating either physically or mentally a situation that seems more favorable, we should still be aware that ultimately it does not make bhakti more effective. Vidurani, she offered banana peels and Krishna was satisfied. Duryodhana, he offered everything, huge feast served on golden plates. Krishna did not accept. So Huh? Well, Srila Prabhupada defines bhakti as devotional service. Right? So it is an endeavor. And then by that endeavor, ultimately, the result also is called bhakti. But more specifically, it's called prem. Then on prem, there's different emotions. But these emotions are also used in the service of Krishna. Right? We serve Krishna with transcendental emotions. Yes. Yeah. Like Prabhuji, he always is very his style is very unique. He is always very he gives so much importance that service should be performed out of inspiration, out of desire, so that otherwise it cannot be called bhakti, but it is work. If it is done out of duty, just out of duty, or just out of feeling you have to do it because otherwise you're being criticized, or you're whatever, so all these material considerations. I mean, that is good. That is also good, like if we don't have desire yet, then we should perform these things as a sacrifice. We should still come from Mangal Arati and do our seva and all these things as a sacrifice, even if desire is not there. Still, Prabhuji, he always gives so much emphasis that we should perform service that is that we really want to, according to our nature, desire. Like Srila Prabhupada, he would engage devotees according to their inclination, according to their desire in Krishna's service. You're a musician, okay, you make music for Krishna. You're a craftsman, okay, you build something for Krishna, like that. So Prabhuji also, he's always takes that position of facilitating service more than ordering or directing service. It is more that, devotees come to Prabhuji and say, I want to do this service, and then Prabhuji will give the facilities. He give the materials, he give the assistance. Well, that is the experience that we've mostly seen there, and also, depends, there's different levels of devotees, naturally, and Prabhuji will speak for different audiences differently also. Anyhow, ignorant persons unable to understand the actual imports of Shastra say that Gyan activates bhakti. Refuting the philosophical conclusions of such ignorant persons, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is establishing the absolute supremacy of bhakti with evidence from scripture. Some people say that Gyan activates bhakti. In their opinion, the inclination for bhakti is actually impossible without knowledge of the soul, knowledge of the absolute truth, and so on. They explain this by saying that while secondary sadhanas are certainly never required in the practice of bhakti, there is no way to activate bhakti other than by developing jnana. Srila Vishnavacharya Thakur, considering such people uninformed, is refuting their ideas and demonstrating the independence of bhakti. An extensive analysis of jnana is now presented. Oh, it is extensive. Ah, okay. Ooh, very extensive. By the word jnana, 3 branches of knowledge are understood. Tat padartha jnana, meaning knowledge of the absolute truth, means Parabrahma or Bhagavat Tattva. Tvam padartha jnana, meaning knowledge of the intrinsic spiritual form of the living entity. And Sambandha jnana, meaning knowledge of the relationship between the absolute truth and the living entity. So 3 branches: God, the soul, and their relationship. Bhakti, Bhakta, and Bhagavan. Tat padartha jnana, knowledge of the intrinsic form of the absolute truth, Sri Krishna, the object of worship. Or maybe we should just do this tomorrow? Huh? Okay.
Can you explain what Prabhupada meant by purity is a force? Purity is not needed to develop. Can you explain that?
Well, according to Kanaya Prabhu, that might not be a bona fide statement, but I've heard from others also. Srila Govinda Maharaj, I think also, he also says, repeats the same formula. Purity is the force, necessity is the books are the basics, preaching is the essence, and is oh yeah. Well, that is not bona fide, of course. It's not Gauravarni Pracharini. Well, I understand why this emphasis on purity and is similarly, my understanding is like Srila Prabhupada, he also established Varnashram Dharma, which also, ultimately speaking, is not a requirement for practicing bhakti, especially like this Daivi Varnashram, like established by Bhakti Sadhana Saraswati Thakur, was not there in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya before him. Still, there were great elevated devotees and Vaishnavas, great elevated devotees, and were practicing pure devotion. So my understanding is that Srila Prabhupada, he also preached vegetarianism and, Varnashram Dharma, so many things, just to bring people onto the human platform. First, you have to become human. Although, even that is, ultimately speaking, is not a requirement, because, even the animals can become devotees. Still, like we read this some days before, although the mercy is independent and still usually it manifests in a certain way, so that we come first onto the human platform, then on the platform of Sattva-gun, and we first practice devotion according to rules and regulations until we come to the platform of actual spontaneous devotion, true bhakti. So
Like somebody don't want to accept mercy, cannot force it, no? Like mercy is there, but I don't want to take this mercy.
well, they can force also, but yeah, generally no.
Maybe the way you can see it is that the four regulative principles which bring us one to a purer platform when we are not following them are austerities. And austerities give somebody energy. If they follow austerities, you get energy from that Shakti. So you have some energy to do Bhakti.
Yeah,
It doesn't give you Bhakti, and it doesn't give you any taste for Bhakti, but it gives you. You can have some enthusiasm. If you don't have any energy, you don't have any enthusiasm.
and also ultimately these austerities can be performed for you to have energy, or they can be performed as for pleasure of Krishna. Then it is actually bhakti.
So one of the 60 forms of Bhakti.
Well, to give up, there's to give up sense gratification or desires for the pleasure of Krishna. I'm sure that is embedded within the path of devotion. Huh?
Give up sinful behavior is
I'm not saying sinful behavior, but to give up. This is sinful behavior, I guess. But to perform austerity or to give up our one's own, like whatever, to give up sense gratification for the pleasure of Krishna. Is that not bhakti?
Yeah, this one. Like, in the Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur in Bhagavad Gita commentary, he explains like there are four kinds of person who starts bhakti, and one of them is the coming from the moral platform. One is from them is coming from the religious platform. One from them is coming from the impersonalist class, and one of them is coming from the one is the pseudo-religious and one is the real religious person. But he says none of them is a sinful person, because
I mean, still there's some examples given, like Ajamil here, and then there's, for example, Ajamil here also is considered a bhakta. Still, he had to give up all his sinful behavior ultimately to mature his devotion and his relationship with Bhagavan. Hmm? Yeah, but that's the verse here previously. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains, just by doing that, he should be considered a bhakta.
So what about utility is the principle?
Utility is the principle, yeah. Means whatever is works, whatever is useful, that should be done. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking that also purity is the force in the sense because Srila Prabhupada, what I meant to say is that he engaged his devotees, he tried to engage them in pure bhakti, but he also gave so much facility just for performing like Kama Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and like Aropsiddha Bhakti, Sanghasiddha Bhakti, like for external material forms of bhakti, sattvika bhakti. And then that bhakti certainly is dependent, it's also not dependent, but that's benefits from these principles, like purity. Maybe at least that's what I understand. Okay, go Premanandi.
Shri Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Vidushi Parashtoto Sarvashishma Shri Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Acharya Kesari Sri Bhaktivedanta Kesari Maharaj ki jai. Shri Jagat Guru Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Prabhupada Parshad Krinda ki jai. Namachar Shri Mahabhagavad Shri Gopishwar Das Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Sabta Goswami Shantidananda Thakur Bhakti Vinod ki jai. Vaishnava Salvama Shri Jagannath Das Bhakti Maharaj ki jai. Gopinath Shri Baladev Shri Bhushan Prabhu ki jai. Rasika Shri Romani Shri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Naratam Shri Vashivananda Prabhutraya ki jai. Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Rupa Shri Sarata Padaranganath Jivu Prabhudarasana Sat Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanadari Kaur Pashad Brinda ki jai. Namachar Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Harinam Shankirtar ki jai. Brahmsha Ghosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vengadadhar Shri Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Navadvip Dham ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Guru Ganga Tulasi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Kopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Yogamaya Purvasi Dev ki jai. Grantaraj Shri Bhagavata Mahapurana ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudashan Chakravarti ki jai. Naras Srinda Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Bhagavata Maharaj ki jai. Shri Sarvashankarai ki jai. Shri Chacharma Chavudham ki jai. Anand Puri Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samakara Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Jai Go Premanandi.
Ich wollte nicht streiten, aber bei mir kam so ein Eindruck, dass Prabhuji ist jemand, der uns alle Facilitäten und so gemacht hat. Ich habe mich so ein Unwohl.
Das sind was mit?
Dass er der Facilitator ist und da kam bei mir so ein Eindruck, Prabhuji ist da, um uns alle zu facilitaten. Und dann kam sofort, nein, das kann doch nicht sein. Prabhuji ist, obwohl er das gerne macht, aber wir sollen nicht jetzt, oder ich soll.
Du meinst, dass man ihn ausbeutet, dann meinst du?
Da kam so ein Eindruck bei mir so hoch und dann dachte ich, nein, das stimmt nicht. Aber ich.
Das ist auch nicht, also ich wollte mir nicht sagen, dass also Prabhuji gibt ja schon, wenn Devotees einen Dienst machen wollen. Ja, und also Prabhuji, das was ich damit sagen wollte, auch wenn Devotees nicht inspiriert sind, dann zwingt er sie nicht. Ja? Wenn sie inspiriert sind, dann gibt er ihnen Facility und er gibt ihnen